If you are wondering what to play on the new set of Teamfight Tactics, look no further, this is the video for you. What's up, I'm Bunny Muffins, I'm a 2-time Challenger player, and I'll be updating this meta snapshot every week for the entire set, so if you ever want to know what to play for set 3.5, you definitely want to subscribe to the channel, you definitely want to bookmark this website, bunnymuffins.lol/meta. But let's just get right into it. So set 3.5, they have a lot of different builds so far, and keep in mind, the set's only been out for 2 days, so it's really impossible to tell what the strongest builds actually are. And there are other playable compositions that I'm not including, but I'm not going to put them in quite yet until they are more mainstay in the meta and played more by the stronger players. I'm sure this is going to change a ton in the coming weeks, so let's just get right into this because I'm sure you guys are very curious on what the strongest builds are right now. So currently I have S tier as protectors. The new Warmogs change allowed protectors to gain huge shields with their trait, which is a % of their maximum health shield. So on a champion like Xin Zhao, he's going to get huge shields early with the huge Warmogs buff because Warmogs now gives 1,000 health. And then when you combine that with Protector Spatula on Aurelion Soul, who casts his ultimate very often, he's going to get a huge shield pretty much every couple of seconds and be almost impossible to kill. Combine this with Urgot, who is a very strong champion at picking off enemy units, you're going to eventually whittle down the entire enemy team. Next up, we have Astro Sniper. Astro Sniper has many different builds, and it revolves around Teemo and Jhin carry. We'll get more into that later. Cybernetics got Vayne added, so you now have 7 Cybernetics units, making it much more consistent to hit. And I think this may be one of the biggest buffed comps from last set. Blaster Brawler got nerfed a little bit with the Jinx changes, but all the item changes. Giant Slayer is now super good on Jinx because of the changes that they made to it. And they also added Gnar, which is a huge buff to Brawlers in general. Lastly, there are now 5 Brawlers to choose from, so if you ever wanted to hit 4 Brawler, you could do it really early, and you don't even have to get a 4 or 5 cost unit in order to do it. Next up, we have Mech Pilot Sorcerers. Mech Pilots got changed a ton, and they now deal a lot of damage. And combine this with Gangplank with 6 Sorcerers, you're going to be one-shotting a lot of teams, so this might be the most fun comp to visually watch. Then the most interesting comp is Vanguard Mystic. This is pretty much like a stalling composition, and we'll get into it later, but the build revolves around the high base damage from Cassiopeia. Next up, we have Rebels. This build kind of stayed the same. And then we also have the Star Guardian Sorcerer build, which is also pretty decent right now because they got Janna added to them, so they now have a lot more options. Dark Star is still pretty decent. I'm going to not list out the comp right now yet because I'm not really too sure what the strongest way to build them is, but we'll get into that more next week. So next up we have, and lastly, we also have the items and methodology of how I make this tier list down here. So let's start with protectors. Where to begin? Okay, Warmog Xin Zhao is broken. You can see that this comp doesn't need any particular damage items, but if you do get some items, you can maybe put like a Ionic Spark on Aurelion Soul, or maybe like put some items on Rakan, such as Morello, Spear of Shojin. You could also itemize Urgot later in the game. He works really well with any sort of mana item, so blue buff is really strong on him. Rapid fire cannon, so he doesn't have to walk around, is really good. And then just like other defensive items is super strong on him. You could add in like maybe blue buff Shojin to really maximize his mana regeneration. Remember that they changed Seraph's Embrace to blue buff, so now you can't stack it anymore, so that's why you add in the Spear of Shojin as like the second mana item. The requirements for this comp, it's pretty simple. You just need an early Warmogs for Xin Zhao. So if you get 2-star Xin Zhao and you get a Warmogs on him, you could pretty much go fast level 9 because he's going to 1v9 pretty much every match until you get to level 9, and then you get Aurelion Soul. You get the Protector Spatula, and then Aurelion pretty much wins a game from there. Other things that are good is, of course, you need the Protector Spatula, as I just talked about, and then tank items for Aurelion, such as Warmogs is really good, Bramble's really good, Dragonclaw is really good, and then you want items for Urgot. I mentioned them before. It's pretty much just mana items, a rapid fire cannon, and defensive items in general. And again, this is a super strong comp because the requirements aren't too big, and belts are pretty uncontested, and it's going to be one of the best items for Xin Zhao until people figure out that this comp is really strong, which some people have, but not every level is as in tune with the meta. So this might work much better in lower elos. So next up, we have Astro Sniper. This is probably one of my more favorite comps because I love Gnar, I love Teemo. They're really cool champions, and this build utilizes so many different items, and that's what I really like about it. Because if you get like a huge mix of like mana items, AP items, attack damage items, tank items, this comp can use them all. Throw all the tank items on your front line, such as Wukong, Gnar, All the attack damage items go on Jin, and then all the ability power items go on Teemo. Normally in the game, the average result of your items is generally a mix of every type of item. So this composition makes very good use of all of those items. There are a lot of variants to the sniper build. There are 2 sniper variants. That's really popular, and that one you remove Caitlyn and Ashe, you add in Thresh, Lulu, and Karma, and you might notice that this is a 7-person composition. You generally want to be hitting level 8 because you're looking for 1, 2, 3, 4 different forecasts, so at level 8 you can add in one of any of these 3 over here. So my favorite might be either Lulu or Karma because you get Darkstar or Celestial. Brawler's pretty decent as well and easier to hit. And if you need more frontline, I'd go for Brawler. But after that, it's pretty much good to go from that. I need to update this write-up down here. This might be the only one that I didn't update, but I'll have to change that later. Next up, we have Cybernetics. Cybernetics, again, I'm loving the buffs to the comp in general from getting Vayne, and there's so many different directions you can go. So the best way to play this composition is to use Lucian carry in the early game, because he could hold both Aurelia, Vayne, and Echo items. There's not many champions that can do that, like hold items for 3 different carries in a composition you can easily transition to. For example, if you get a red buff, that could go on Echo later. If you get Infinity Edges and Last Whispers, that could go on either Vayne or Aurelia. And also, Vayne can use a bunch of different items too. Runon's Deathblade is another great combination on her. And then again, similar to the Astro Sniper build, this build uses all sorts of different items. You could throw any leftover items on your front line, and if you get like rods or something like that, they're great on Echo. Attack damage, you already know, is great on Aurelia and Vayne. The really only thing you need to worry about on this composition is really just getting Aurelia and Vayne items. You don't need both of them to have items, but you definitely need one of them to have items. So what I like to do is maybe go 3-item Aurelia and then Thieves Gloves Vayne, or 3-item Vayne and Thieves Gloves Aurelia is pretty nice because you don't generally get too many items per game. You get around 11 to 13 items per game on average. Obviously, there are some galaxies that fix that, but in a normal galaxy, that's pretty much what you're going to get. If you want to read more into detail for what I just said, you could check it out down here. And to counter them, Mech is really good at countering Cybernetics because it's really hard for Vayne and Aurelia to snowball to different targets if they're having trouble being stuck on the mech. So next up we have Blaster Brawler. Note that Blaster did get nerfed a little bit because Jinx no longer shoots her ultimate ability on the Blaster bullets. So Runon's really good on Jinx because of that. So now you don't even need the Blaster buff anymore. It's kind of just there to apply red buff for Ezreal or Jinx. And you'll notice that I only put 2 items on Jinx here. The 3rd item could be either another offensive or defensive items. I just think these 2, Runon's and Giant Slayer, are the best right now. Again, similar to Astro Snipers, this is a super flexible composition. You could go in so many different directions. You don't need like 4 Brawler. You really only need Jinx, Blitz, and Ezreal to really get your composition going. I like 4 Brawler personally because Gnar is super strong, and you're running Brawlers anyways. You get the Rebel buff when you do go Brawlers. So I really just like playing this. One cool thing you could do is you could add in Ziggs since he's the 3rd Rebel and then play a Gangplank with GA if you manage to hit him. Since you are going to be going to level 8 or 9 with this composition, getting Gangplank happens pretty often, so just be sure to save a GA on him. Another item that works pretty well is Redemption. You could put that on Gnar if he doesn't have Guardian Angel. Lastly, red buff's really strong. Red buff could be on Jinx, red buff could be on Ezreal. It really doesn't matter. You just want to make sure you have 3 items on your Jinx. If you don't have Gangplank, you could play like Aurelion Soul as a 3rd Rebel, as he's pretty strong because he steals mana from your enemies. Some of the counters to this is percent health damage, because that's really good against Brawlers, and pretty much Infiltrators can still kill Jinx, and if she's the only carry, killing her is always going to be the best option since they really rely on having Jinx to do all the work here. Next up, we have Mech Sorcerer. There are a ton of Sorcerer builds. Like, there are a lot of different 6 Sorcerer builds. Some with Riven, some with 3-star Guardian with, like, Xerath and Victor carry. But the one I find the most strong is the one with Mech Pilots because it gives you a really strong front line. I definitely prefer this over the Wukong Mordekaiser version, where instead of running the 3 Mech Pilots, they run Mordekaiser and Wukong for 2 Vanguard, and they get Darkstar with Xerath. The reason why I like this more is because you get the Demolitionist trait for Gangplank, and Gangplank with Sorcerers, he pretty much is going to be one-shotting teams. and he's going to be stunning them if they do happen to survive. So that's why I really like this combination. Also, before you get 2 hats, you really do like the Demolitionist buff because it allows the rest of your team to really activate after the stun hits from Gangplank. But pretty much the core of this build is you need to hit Gangplank, you need to hit Guardian Angel. You use Riven as a item holder for him, so Riven's going to be great because she's a 4-cost unit, so she's much easier to get than Gangplank. And she also really carries super, super hard. Sometimes you could just even win with Riven and not even hit the Gangplank. Other items that could be useful is like kind of support mage items, such as maybe Morello on Victor. You could also go Xerath carry if you get a Quicksilver Sash. Yeah, this is a super fun comp. If you like mech, if you like Gangplank, this is what you should be playing. Next up, we have Vanguard Mystic. So I gave a little tease of this composition. This is called it's like a stall composition. If you guys watch my patch preview, you'll know that I noted that Cassiopeia has a humongous amount of damage over a long period of time. That means the longer the game goes, the stronger Cassiopeia is. So what you want to do is build Morello Nomicon and blue buff on her so she applies her skill as often as possible and also gives a Morello buff. And then next, you'll want to be able to survive as long as possible. So what's the way to do that? One way is adding in Mystics and Vanguard because Mystic gives a lot of magic resist, Vanguard gives a lot of armor, and then with the Cassio ulting everywhere, you'll eventually kill the entire team. This is a great top 4 composition, and for third item on Cassiopeia, you generally want some sort of defensive item, maybe like Guardian Angel would be really good. Because again, Guardian Angel stalls even longer because you have to wait for the res time to complete. If you're facing infiltrators, move Cassiopeia over to this square here just so she doesn't get targeted first. Put all your random tank items on either Wukong or Jace, and in this composition, you'll generally want to go for 3-star Jace or Cassiopeia. So you could sit at around like level 7 to roll for them, but if you're not hitting them, you could go ahead and move up to level 8 or 9 to add everyone in. Next up in B tier, again, B tier is still very good. People think I put something in B tier and they assume I think it's terrible. No, it's like, if every comp was S or A tier, we'd have way too many comps there, and there are only 8 comps that can be played per game, and there definitely are not that many to be good enough to be played by multiple people every game. Those are generally the comps in S or A tier, either comps that get first place all the time, top 4 all the time, or can support multiple players. Those are going to be the ones in S and A tier. Even though like I put something in B tier, it doesn't mean they're bad. If you're the only person going a B tier comp, they're going to be very strong. So just keep that in mind, because I know some people have like different interpretations of B tier, but if you read all my descriptions, you'll understand that B tier is still very, very good. It's really only until C tier where I tend to try to avoid those comps. Janna's a new Star Guardian. Janna is super, super good because she allows you to change your damage. You're going to be doing a lot of true damage with this build, which gets past a lot of the different like Mystic builds that are going around right now. This comp got nerfed a little bit because you can't go double Seraphs anymore, because now you have to build blue buff, and blue buff is unique, meaning it's not stackable, but that's all good because they added in Warmogs, so I love having Protector Spatula with Nico with Warmogs because she gets a humongous shield. You could also, instead of the Spatula, just level up and put in a Rakan, for example. Something like a Rakan Lulu could work really well because you get Mystic with Soraka and Lulu, and then you get Celestial with Rakan and Lulu. But after that, you pretty much just want to prioritize Nico items. Nico items are probably the most important things in this composition, the best one being Guardian Angel, next one being Ionic Spark, and then third item doesn't matter too much. If you are going the Protector route, you definitely want Warmogs. If not, something like a hat is good. Next up, you want Syndra item. Blue buff is the most important, so I'd say prioritize Guardian Angel first, and then blue buff for Syndra. Quicksilver Sash is also really strong on Nico to avoid Zephyrs. Next up for Syndra, you want a hat, and then you want a Trap Claw. Another good support item is like a Morello Nomicon. You could put that on either Victor or Ahri or Nico. Next, we have Rebels. Not too much has changed. I know we can't go Misfortune Kale anymore, so what you do instead, you just add in Ezreal and Blitzcrank. Ezreal's super strong right now because he has his mana pool reduced, so he gets his cast off a lot quicker. Obviously, you want Blitzcrank with Jinx, so he complements him really well. And then lastly, of course, we have Gangplank. Whenever you're running a Demolitionist, you always want to be looking to add in Gangplank. Gangplank wants Guardian Angel. Jinx works with so many different items. Giant Slayer is also really good here. Blast Whisper Infinity Edge works too, but my favorite is the Rapid Fire Cannon in Rebels so that she doesn't have to walk around anymore, and then adding in Deathblade Runon because that is always going to be a super strong combination. After that, Guardian Angel most important for Gangplank if you are running him. Aurelion Soul could have items on him too. And pretty much the way you play this, you use either Lucian or Zed as your item holders early game for Jinx. And then just once you get her, sell them, swap the items on Jinx, get up to 6 Rebels, play Blaster if you have red buff, add in a Blitzcrank for Jinx, and then look for Gangplank. You could also transition into the Blaster Brawler build, of course, if you are going Jinx carry and if you hit different types of units. The problem with Rebels is that they're easily countered because it's hard to move all these units because they all have pretty static positioning. So if you are facing this composition a lot and you want to beat them, Shroud of Stillness is going to be really good. Area of Effect such as your own Gangplank is going to be really good. Mana Reaver on the Gangplank is really good, so if you use Thresh or Aurelia to hit him, that's going to be really strong, or Shroud of Stillness on the Gangplank. And lastly, Zephyr. Zephyr and Gangplank without a Quicksilver Sash is really strong. You could Zephyr Jinx as well because people don't typically build defensive items on Jinx when they go Rebels. So again, those are a couple counters if you are having trouble with this composition. But that's pretty much for all the comps. Definitely let me know which ones are your favorite. Let's get into the items. The item carousel priority, this one needs to be updated. I'm not 100% too sure which items are the best quite yet. So I'm just going to leave this be right now because everyone's going for different comps. Everyone's trying new things. So it's really hard to tell what the best players think are really, really the strongest. For items, just a couple of updates. Seraph's is now blue buff, so that I adjusted that accordingly. Infinity Edge, even though it got changed, it's still really, really strong. Luden's got a big buff, so I really like Luden's early game. So even though I didn't list Luden's in any of my compositions, Luden's is super strong, but it's not like super optimal in any composition. So if you're trying to win streak, build Luden's because it's super good. But if you want to try to get first place, maybe hold off and build blue buff and hat instead with those items. Warmogs is also really good in Protector, so I put that up really high as you can see here. Rapid Fire Cannon, super, super good. Still, I think that's pretty much all the changes. I moved down Titans a lot because Mech doesn't really need to use it anymore, and I should probably move Protector Spatula up because I forgot to do that here. But yeah, that's pretty much most of the changes on the items. I'm sure I missed one or two things here, but most of the items did stay the same. So keep that in mind. The way to read this chart, the top right are generally the items you want to build, and you generally want to avoid items on the bottom left. But yeah, tons of comps have not been played yet. For example, we haven't seen any Battlecast compositions. Dark Stars still need to be figured out. So there's probably a lot I'm missing here. There's also some Blade Master builds with Master Yi and Yasuo that I don't include here. So we'll look at those next week. These are what I think are the most insane right now to be running. And if you want to be winning, you probably want to be playing these. Personally, I think I'm going to try to learn one comp at a time. So I'm probably going to start with the Cybernetic build because I think this one is going to be a mainstay for the rest of the set. So if I really master Cybernetics now, I never have to learn it again later. So that's probably what I'm going to be focusing on first. And then maybe I'll move on to Astro Sniper. And then after that, I might want to play the Vanguard Mystic build just because it looks so interesting and so fun. But let me know what you guys think about these builds. What's your favorite so far? What are some comps you've been playing that I haven't been including on here? And I'll be updating this next week, so if you don't want to miss that, be sure to hit the subscribe button below. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like, and also if you have any questions or have any comments, leave them in the comment section down below. I'll leave all the links for all these comps in the description below as well, but you could also access them on my website at bunnymuffins.lol/meta. And you could just click on any of these pictures to be taken to a link of the composition. I also have a new episode of Team Up coming out this weekend, either Saturday or Sunday. I'm not really sure yet. It depends on how quickly I can edit it. But definitely look out for that. If you have any thoughts of who I invited, put that down in the comments below as well. But yeah, that's it for now. Have fun on this patch. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to share and subscribe. And of course, smash that like button. Each like is an LP I gain before the next video.